Today we're swapping the shock shaft and a shock from an E-maxx, also found on a T-maxx or the rear shock of a Traxxas Slash. You'll need a soap dish or some kind of container for the oil to go into coming out of the shock, and a pair of pliers, preferably with no teeth. These are smooth needle nose pliers, can be found in the cheapy aisle at Lowe's. So, pull back on the spring, push the retainer up and off the eyelet there, and remove it from the shaft. Pull the spring off, and the spring spacers. Some of these were bent and rusted, probably half of them. If you're familiar with an E-maxx, it has 8 shocks. So I've already pulled several, and all the rest of them are already done. I just saved this one for the video, of course. But this one's not that bad. Some of the bad ones are really, really bent. So remove the shock spacers, or you can leave them on there. And find a piece of paper, something you put around the shock shaft. You don't want to scratch it, so this will just be our cushion. You got to get that eyelet off to get the valve and shock shaft out of the body. That's too wide. It's my first voiceover. It's exciting. There we go. That's it right there. Yeah. I took a file to the inside of these pliers also to make sure that everything was smooth and there was no burr sticking up on the sides that would go through my paper and scratch my shock shaft. Now, we're going to throw this one away anyway, most likely, but if it's not real bad, it is always nice to have an extra one. Now we can remove the shock cap. And there'll be a little diaphragm in here, little rubber bladder type thing. Scrape the oil off there. And we'll dump out all of our oil. This was only like a week and a half old. I didn't realize the shocks were that bad until I saw one was bent one day. And I usually let it sit for like 5 minutes. Let all the oil drip out. That's just me. You don't have to wait that long. And if you want to fill it up with 45 and it had 30 in it before, and you dump it out, and you don't wait for it to drip forever, it's okay. It's not going to matter if it's mixed. But if you're picky like me, I like it to be drained well. If you have a 3D printed stand like this, or a 3D printer to print a stand like this, it's pretty nice if you can get one the right size where the holes are the perfect fit for a Traxxas shock. This one's scaled down. So now we have it all drained out. Push the shock shaft through the body. Pull it out. Now there's a washer on the inside of there, so make sure you don't tip it over and lose it. Now we can get this out of the way and pull the valve off the top of the shaft so we can put it on our gold shaft. Close-up time. Here I am stabbing it with a screwdriver and pulling it off there. Sometimes you can push down on these on a flat table and they'll pop off, and you want to have something over top of that because sometimes they will shoot across the room. So use some common sense here. Talking really small E-rings. I usually get it on there like that, flip it over, and bam! E-ring installed. You notice this valve has 2 holes in it. You can get them with 3, maybe more. I always run 2 because it's more resistance. I mean, some people run like 80 weight shock oil on these things. Now you'll notice one side sharp and one side is round. I always put the sharp side up because you want more resistance with the shaft going in than coming out. I want it to return fast and go in with a little more resistance. So you can do any way you would like, doesn't matter. That's just my preference. Same thing with the E-ring. You'll notice that it's pressed steel, so one side is flatter and has a sharp edge and the other side is round. I always put the sharp side to the outside because it creates a little more resistance for it to pop off. And your little pliers, get in there, and be careful if you have a magnetized set of pliers, because sometimes you can touch it and it'll stick to it and drop off on the floor. And there you have it. Bam! Installation time. This one has a gold shaft. I didn't do a video with the gold shaft because for some reason my camera wasn't on. And I got all the way to here and I was like, I'm not going to do it over again. Be careful when you're putting it in there because those threads are going past the seal. If you unscrew the cap on the bottom of the shock, you'll see there's a seal in there. And there's a plastic washer on the inside that the shaft is going through as it's going through the seal. And we'll just set it back in our little RC car stand there and grab some oil. On this E-maxx, I put 35 weight in the front and 45 weight in the back. I got an assortment of Team Losi shock oils. Don't spill it, come on. This guy. And I figured I'd try some different setups. So I always get it filled up. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top, but you can see that it's going to sift in there through those tiny little holes, and we'll pump it up and down, get all the air out. And once you get in a rhythm, yeah, just prime that baby. You can see those bubbles coming to the surface. Once again, I'll let this sit for like 5 minutes, maybe longer. Work on some other shocks. Let it sit for a while. We'll top it off. It's my first voiceover. There we go. And you want to leave a little space in there because as the shaft goes into the shock body, it's going to take up more space. So the oil has to have some place to go. So you need just a little bit of space in there. You want it to almost be just a little bit lower than what the bladder would be when on top of there. Give it a couple more pumps, see if there's any air in there. Now if you put too much oil in here, it's not that big of a deal. You'll just notice when you try and compress it, it won't go all the way in. Either it'll squirt out under the cap or it just won't go all the way in. So always check it. Put the bladder back on, diaphragm, whatever you want to call it. The shock cap, give it a good finger tight, not too much. These are plastic. I am cheap. Didn't want to get the aluminum ones. Probably end up breaking these and have to buy them anyway. Little snug tight there. Wipe down. Some moron got oil all over this thing. Yeah, a little more wipe down. You can see that spring collar just fits right in that hole. So you'll take the shock spacers. Oh, wait a second. Our eyelet is not on here yet. Finger tight that thing on. Usually go as far as I can until the shaft starts spinning. Cover it up with our paper again. Grab your pliers. And you can Loctite this eyelet on too if you want to. Wouldn't hurt to, but I don't think it's going to come off. It's a pretty tight fit. Once again, if you want to tighten this up, you can put a screwdriver in the eyelet hole. But once again, it's plastic. Don't get crazy with it. Looks good. Titanium coated shaft. So gold. A little more wipe down. Put the shock collar on there. Spring collar, I mean. Where's our shock spring? There it is. I just got some really heavy duty springs to put on this thing too, so these are all coming back apart again. And you put your retainer on there, and we're all done. Ready to reinstall. Thanks for watching, guys. Hobbies and Hot Rods.